the more AI comes in, the more human we will have to become. We have actually forgotten our human traits. For example, today with Gen AI, the company most under threat is Google, which created Gen AI. So it's not AI which will take your jobs, Pushkar. It's a human being using AI. Data and AI is going to build new powers and make some of the old powers go away.
Yeah, I think organizations should just get more and more Gen Z.
Difficult to manage, but good to have.
Lovely to have you, Jaspreet, and I'm so excited about all the possibilities you bring for this conversation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
So, Jaspreet, when I last met you, it's about 4 or 5 years back, you're giving a talk on digital transformation. And cut short till today, we are here talking about Gen AI, and a lot of your work is around that space. Mm-hmm. What has changed? What has been the journey?
When I used to do a lot of work around digital transformation, which I still do, yes, one of the most powerful tools, what we call technologies, for digital transformation was actually AI. And AI is actually a very old technology. It's almost 65, 70 years old. And so even when I used to talk primarily about digital transformation, it was about business models, culture, etc. But how to make that happen would happen with AI. What has evolved, however, is that AI itself, over the past 2 or 3 years, has kind of just had an exponential growth. And this new kind of AI, which we call generative AI, is new. That wasn't there then. It's still digital transformation for many companies, or transformation, but now we have far more powerful and interesting tools to do that.
How are you terming AI now? Like every day there's something new. It's almost like a container that gets a new shape or form every single day. And some expert from somewhere is pouring into that container. How do you define it? Is it a tool? Is it a new technology? Is it a state of mind? Is it something that is like a evolving creature?
The term artificial intelligence was coined, and this was around 1955-56. McCarthy, who was one of the fathers of AI, John McCarthy, he actually defined it as the science or technology by which we can make computers think like humans, think and behave like humans. And that definition, in many ways, has stood the test of time. However, over the 50, 60 years, and coming specifically to the last 2 or 3 absolutely crazy years for AI, that definition is kind of stretching. It's stretching beyond that definition. So a couple of things. First of all, AI is not a technology. AI, in many ways, artificial intelligence is a philosophy. It's the philosophy as to how to make non-human things as intelligent or sometimes even emotional or conscious like human beings. And there are various technologies within that. Machine learning is a technology, or deep learning is a technology, algorithms, or now generative AI, large language models. These are specific technologies within this whole umbrella. So if you think about AI today, the questions which I often ask and write about, and many others ask, is it artificial intelligence, or is it intelligence which is not natural but artificial? Or is it augmented intelligence, which is human beings plus something else, another intelligence? Or is it alternative intelligence? Because it's just a different kind of intelligence. In many times it's even referred to as animal intelligence. Octopuses, for example, think of their intelligence. Sometimes people think that they're as intelligent as human beings, but just a totally different kind of intelligence which we don't understand. Alien intelligence. Is it alien intelligence? Is it ambient intelligence, which is, it's kind of all across us? And so there are now multiple ways to think about it. But what I like most in terms of a new definition, if it may, is that it's not, and I agree with it, it's not just a technology or a trend. AI actually is fundamental shift in how humans and machines will interact with each other. And the gap between humans and machines is being closed by artificial intelligence. So if you think of ChatGPT, etc., now you work with machines in a much more human way, in a much more intuitive way. You talk to it, you converse with it the same way as you would with a human being. And that's what really AI, generative AI have done, reduce that gap.
And since we are on Humanscope, who do you think is making more effort? The humans are making more effort, or the machines are making more effort to bridge that gap and to the point of humanizing?
Well, always human. One of the more, if I may say, well received series of articles and talks that I've been doing is something called Being Human in the Age of AI. Making AI, making it do what it's doing today, obviously was done by human beings. Making AI more intuitive, more emotional, more human like, who's making it that? So far, until we achieve artificial general intelligence, it's human beings. In fact, it's very interesting, Pushkar. A lot of people think that AI is coming here to take away our human faculties, creativity, for example, or mathematical ability and analytical ability, or, sometimes even emotional ability, cognitive ability. But what I believe very strongly, and a lot of other people do, is that the more AI comes in, the more human we will have to become. We have actually forgotten our human traits. Social media has made us forget them. Our education system does its very best to take away things like curiosity, passion, etc. Our corporate systems do the same. And these uniquely human things of love, passion, curiosity, we will have to kind of rediscover them to actually distinguish ourselves from AI. And so as more and more AI happens, we will have to become more and more human.
So it is the human. I'm glad that we are on that trajectory, because one of the common pieces that we get at People Matters is what's going to happen with our jobs, what's going to happen things around us. I've had a fundamental belief: every time something revolutionary has happened, it's only given birth to millions of possibilities. And when I hear some of the statements that have been made about how things are changing, and you apply that from the time of internet, time of mainframe computers, time of mobile phones to Gen AI, they're pretty similar statements that people have been making. Of course, the pace at which things are changing are very different, and we can't do anything about it. Is this utter anxiety of what's going to happen and wanting to control the future, or is this more human, or is this actually giving into the machines era?
So, look, your belief is absolutely right. And it's not just a belief, it's borne out by history and facts. So, if you go back into history, since the agricultural revolution, forget about computers, we as human beings have invented a set of tools which we call technologies, which give rise to these new kind of revolutions, which not only change how we work or do business, they change our lives, they change politics, geopolitics, they change humanity. Okay, the agricultural revolution was the first one. It made food abundant. And then we invented a set of things, and the industrial revolution happened. The amount of angst before the industrial revolution, if you and I were alive, was more. People died. There were people who were hanged because they opposed machines, etc. But then machines came, and actually the number of possibilities, as you say, and therefore the number of options and the number of jobs only increased. The same thing with the computing revolution, the same thing with the information revolution. It made information freely accessible, which a lot of people had big problems with, because information used to be hoarded. But, it gave rise to online reputation managers, or jobs of digital marketeers, or search engine optimizers, jobs we didn't know had a clue that we would exist. And so factually, every new technology which has come in, fundamental technology, what we call GPTs, not the GPT of ChatGPT, but general purpose technologies, which run across all industries and everything, have actually they've destroyed jobs, no question about it. But they've always created net new more jobs than what used to exist before. But what happens is, Pushkar, we are all human, right? Yeah. And so before any of such new step changes in technology, and therefore our world, we are excited and terrified in equal measure. And Now we are at the cusp of a new revolution where intelligence becomes free. Okay, we can tap into it. And obviously, that's going to change a whole lot of things, and it's going to make a bunch of people redundant. But on the other hand, it's going to open up a million new opportunities. And so we are terrified and excited in equal measure. The same thing is repeating itself. The only little difference this time is most often these set of technologies used to be target, in a sense, menial, manual labor. This time it's after squarely targeting cognitive work. And that is what is making people like you and me a little more nervous than what used to be. But it's actually going to create many more opportunities than generative AI, for example, has the potential of, if becomes quote unquote free, which it will, a billion of us can become creators and earn money, so there's massive new opportunities which will come up.
I like the optimism in the way you're putting it out, and I've been a firm believer that every time something new has come in, human race has figured out to supersede it. I think creativity has to do a lot with how we are going to sort of overcome that. What it is also done, Jaspreet, and would love to get your view on that, is it is now democratized things. One change between earlier technologies and what is available today, a person sitting in rural part of India has access to it versus someone studying in a top university. Person who may be sitting in Bangladesh or Nepal has equal access to this technology or the tool that someone in Harvard or Columbia or some of the best universities would have. So that puts even more pressure. How do you look at this whole ecosystem?
No, so I agree. And let me just give you two examples here. Okay. So let's talk about creativity first, since you mentioned creativity. A lot of people, a lot of us think that Gen AI is so creative, Sora and, Runway and, obviously ChatGPT and all of these. They do some amazing, we can't, we think that as human beings, we will not be able to come up with the stuff that they come up. It's very interesting, but that it's when Sora, I don't know if you know about Sora, it's OpenAI's video tool, text to video. Think of it like the ChatGPT of video. Okay, and so you put in a text prompt. So when Sam Altman, the OpenAI founder, was teasing Sora into the wild when it had just come out, and he was on X, Twitter, okay, saying, send me prompts and I'll create videos. And Kunal Shah, big Indian entrepreneur, okay, gave a very creative prompt, about sea creatures riding bicycles on the beach with wind, and he wanted a drone view of that. And actually that video, which has about 9 million views, which Sam Altman created, was an amazingly creative video. So when sometimes in my talks I show that prompt and that video, and the question I ask is, who is being creative, Sora or Kunal Shah? And the answer, inevitably, by 100 very scared people in the audience, is Kunal Shah. Yeah. Because look, if you didn't have the tool, the facility, anyone now can be creative. Your person in Nepal, your person in rural India, because now there's this super powerful technology/tool to make it happen. That's example one. Okay, example two is on the democratization part. Software engineering, writing software, 0.1% of the people in the world did that. And they were the elite. They are the elite. Yeah. They sit in mostly Silicon Valley or parts of Bangalore or, such places. And they have a disproportionate amount of power, wealth, and the ability to change the world. Now, it's very interesting, but every time you write a prompt in English or Hindi or Italian or whatever on ChatGPT, you're actually writing code. But that code is being written in your language. To do what ChatGPT is doing before ChatGPT, a software engineer would have to write code to get those responses in Python or SQL or whatever, or PHP. And now you're writing it in your own language. What does that mean? It means 8 billion people can write code, 100% democratized. And there are many such powerful, very powerful examples about how generative AI especially is democratizing. It's a democratizing technology. On one hand, it's centralizing. All the big techs actually kind of becoming more and more powerful. But on the other hand, it's democratizing.
who's going to win? Because there's going to be almost like a war of worlds over here. Some of the biggest tech companies trying to create their own ecosystems over here. And then you have individuals who are going to look at this space and say that, hey, this is my playground. Where's this going to go?
So it's not only just these two constituencies, they're also countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as I had said earlier, very powerful, fundamental new technologies like these, the GPTs, they are also reshape geopolitics. They reshape the power of countries. And the Industrial Revolution made Britain into a world power. Okay, that small country. The internet and computing made the US into a world power. Okay, manufacturing and the Industrial Revolution, in some sense, therefore, going further, made China into a world power. Who will AI make a world power? Well, currently, it's between the US and China. They are the two big guys here. The others are, including India, are still playing catch up. And the reason why it's largely US and China is to what you said. It's because this technology is very, very capitalistic. It's very owned by corporations. And pretty much, Pushkar, if I may say, unfortunately, the three big guys who control the cloud are pretty much going to control the technology. AI lives in the cloud. And therefore, the people who own the clouds own the power around this. I think there will be an individual play where, people like you and me can, write software or become a creator of videos, and or much like social media did. But even within social media, while you and I were thinking we have the power was with the platforms. And I think
The house always wins, right?
and I believe that with all the good that it can do, unfortunately, the centralization of the power will remain with these very, very large companies, including obviously the people, the big three cloud guys, plus the people who build the infrastructure, which is NVIDIA today. The one interesting way where this could be broken is where, again, with these fundamental new technologies, new power brokers emerge. And so, for example, today with GenAI, the company most under threat is Google, which created GenAI. It was in their labs that the transformer and large language models were created. And now that entire monopoly is being threatened by a new way to do search, a new way to do apps, and therefore the App Store. So it's going to be pretty interesting.
Old rulers, new challengers. As individuals, we are thinking what's going to happen with me and my job, and what's going to happen.
On the job part, though, just a very quick, since you had referred to it earlier also, GenAI will impact jobs. We talked about jobs going away. We talked about jobs coming in. There's some jobs which nothing will happen. If you're a farmer or a construction worker or a nurse, you're absolutely safe. But the key thing, which I think we should remember in jobs, is that about 60% of jobs will get impacted in some way. And so if you're a software engineer and you use something like a GitHub Copilot, which is a GenAI, you will be a better software engineer than someone who doesn't. Similarly, as a marketeer, similarly as an artist. And so it's not AI which will take your jobs, Pushkar. It's a human being using AI. So it again comes back to the human being. And thus, you have to decide as a human being, are you the one who embraces this new powerful set of technologies, tools, and becomes a better worker and becomes the replacer rather than the replacee? It's not AI which will take your jobs, not for a long time, but a human using AI who will.
So much of upskilling that needs to happen then in that case. Who's responsible? Do individuals take responsibility? Do corporates take responsibility? Do governments jump in? How do you see it?
So let me throw something provocative at you. There's no upskilling necessary. Tell me something. Did you upskill to WhatsApp or to Google search? No, right? You didn't. This is as simple and as intuitive. Okay, you don't need to large corporate trainings for that. All these corporate trainers are going to hate me for this, but anyone who's coming and saying I'm going to train you on this is just making use of your insecurities. It's not about training. It's not about upskilling. It's not about deep expertise. It's just about literacy. As we were talking earlier, literacy used to be about reading, writing, arithmetic. Now it's reading, writing, arithmetic, and how to use these tools. Yeah. Frankly, there's only one thing you need to learn this. You don't even need money. You need curiosity. Most of these tools at their basic level are free. Perplexity is free, ChatGPT is free, Gemini is free, everything is free. It's there, it's available. So what you need to do is to not get scared of it and actually go and start using it. Always bring, and whenever you want to start a new task, just invite AI to the table. Work with it. Okay. And we do things with companies, senior executives who are the most resistant to change. And within 3 hours, okay, they are working with ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, a few others, as if like, they were doing it and saving an hour and a half of their life. So I think to come to your question, therefore, what it needs is basic literacy, like you had with search, like you had with the internet. You just did it, right? Even Excel. No one really, basic Excel, you just learned it. And here too, so it's really going to be on the individual, in my opinion. However, organizations need to encourage it. Many organizations actually discourage it, okay, even today, because they are either scared that, some of their policies might get violated or some data might get whatever. So there's encouragement, or schools, colleges, many of them today discourage it. They do. They think that the student will do the homework, he'll do his homework by just using ChatGPT, etc. You know what? It's going to happen. And so you need that encouragement. But beyond that, I think you don't really need hardcore training or upskilling.
I think the open book test used to be the most difficult test of all tests. It was never about the closed book ones. I think similarly with having access to all these tools, education institutes, I think that's going to be a more difficult way of assessing who's doing what and what's the capability and stuff around that.
No, absolutely. I'm an engineer, so long, hundreds of years back, I was studying engineering, and the scientific calculator had just come in. I remember that most colleges in India, I was in India, most colleges in India banned the use of scientific, and that happened in the US and UK too earlier, because they said that, look, to be a true engineer, you need to have those log tables which are all printed, and you kind of have to see, okay, column and row. While in a scientific calculator, you could just press a button and you could. The thing was that it wasn't about finding the logarithmic value of a particular thing. The thing was about finding the solution, and a scientific calculator could help you reach the solution easier. Today, the same thing is happening with ChatGPT. I mean, teachers are worried, but there's a very innovative teacher I know who has reversed stuff. And she said that the classwork will be done at home and the homework in the class. So what that means is that, the project that she gives actually gets done in the class so that she can see how students are doing this, even if they are using the tools. And what was to be taught is actually taught after school. Okay, and so, people will find their ways of dealing with it, but it's inevitable. You can't run away from it, whether as an employee or as a student or as an educator.
Wow, interesting times we are getting into. Since we are on the People Matters platform, I'm intrigued to get into this conversation about HR leaders, CHROs. How's that role going to change, evolve? What's your view on this? We just heard Jensen talking about CIOs literally becoming CHROs to manage AI systems, how people were to be managed and enabled. So what's your take on this whole piece?
Yeah. Jensen Huang said something to support, and obviously he's a very powerful supporter, something which I've always been talking about. So look, the HR until COVID, unfortunately, never had a seat on the table when new technologies were being considered. Okay? Which is so ironic, because every time you have to roll in a new technology, and I used to do that in the whole digital transformation part, what I used to say that, what destroys any digital transformation is not the technology, business model, blah, money, resources, it's culture. Okay, and who is the custodian of culture? Okay, CEO, yes, but other than that, the head of HR. I mean, they're chief culture officers, actually. That's what they should be, right? And they don't have a seat in the table. So they are as much a recipient. COVID changed that a bit with work from home. And therefore, the CHRO had a seat on the table when, in 7 days, everyone had to, we had to buy tech tools, Teams or Zoom or whatever, roll it out to multiple hundreds of thousands of employees. So they kind of got a taste of it at that time. With Gen AI, again, I have a bit of a provocative view here. Okay. And, with IT, SAP, CRM systems, facility, whatever, good old IT, that's when the CIO was born, right? And it was the CIO's game. It was her or his remit. And then when the internet happened, search and social and everything. Everyone thought this will be this technology, so it will be the CIO's game, but it wasn't. It turned out to be the CMO's game because it was the CMO who was buying advertising and search keywords, etc. And actually, in most companies, outspending the CIO. With Gen AI, now, everyone again thinks that it will be the CIO's game, but it's not. Gen AI is all about boosting productivity, efficiency of employees, and that is the CHRO's remit. So I think that generative AI is actually going to be the role of actually the CHRO. And frankly, in my work, almost my entire work is with CHROs and L&D managers. And so I think the CHRO has a huge opportunity to effect organizational change using this technology.
Also, I think for long, CHROs, at least in the top organizations, they would have access to the boardroom, but majority of the community is still trying to find that space. I see this as a ladder to sort of quickly get that access. And apart from using this, there are tens of other things that the boards and the CEOs need to look into when it comes to talent. Unfortunately, it doesn't reach them. So if that can change and this becomes the way to happen, nothing like it.
It's a catalyzing function. I've always thought that the CHRO should have a seat at the table whenever a technology comes in. Because it's not the technology. Technologies come in to change or boost or transform organizations. That's a technology's job. Okay, it's not, the technology's job is not to just be there, okay, and run a factory, okay. Yeah. Factories also run better so that the organization benefits, right? And that's why I think having the CHRO at this table is super important, and hopefully, as you said, this will catalyze that.
Yeah, I truly believe so, or hope so, that we take this opportunity as talent leaders, as change leaders. Because another area, Jaspreet, I feel is this whole change management. CHRO needs to play a huge, bigger responsibility now. So many things, changing around, calming those nerves in the organization. You also have the whole aspect of generations coming into work. They have their own ways of looking at technology, what's happening. So the CHRO's job, I feel, is becoming more and more complex, and their ability to drive change, power is increasing, the responsibility is increasing, and I think it's their shot now.
It goes beyond. It goes further than that, Pushkar. Okay. So you referred to Jensen Huang, right? And what Jensen Huang said was that the CIO's job going forward will become like the talent manager for AI agents. Yeah. Okay, how to bring in AI. If 2023 was the year of ChatGPT, it came in November 22. So if 2023 was the year of ChatGPT, and 2024 was the year when multiple models like ChatGPT proliferated and it kind of became mainstream. 2025 is the year of what is called AI agents, agentic AI. You're going to hear nothing but agentic AI in this year. And AI agents are basically AIs which have been given agency, so the power to do. Not just the power to tell, which ChatGPT does, or show, which say a Sora or a Stable Diffusion does, but the power to do. And what is going to happen with that, and has already started happening, by the way, as we talk, is that work will be done by human beings plus AI agents. And therefore, going forward, a team will not just be human beings. A team of any team in an organization, say a payroll team, okay, or even a recruiting team, okay, will be human beings plus AI agents. And so a CHRO or a business leader is not going to be only about, okay, I've got these 6 human beings or 20 human beings, let me put them in the right place, their talents, etc. It's going to be, I've got these 10 human beings, less than 20, 10 human beings and these 100 AI agents or 500 AI agents. So the team will be composed of human beings and AI agents, and HR will have to. So a new definition of diversity, if it may. Yeah. Okay. And how do you manage that? And how do AI and human beings work well together? Jensen Huang and others have talked about what they call one-person unicorns. So startups which have a human founder and 500 AI agents. Okay, creating a potentially $1 billion company. And we're going to see that in 2025, not 2026, okay, this year. So the job therefore becomes even more complex, interesting than what we can imagine.
I think when you're drawing workforce planning strategies, this is going to be an important component 2025. How are you looking at AI agents part of the workforce and how we may go about addressing that? The sooner we do, better it is.
Absolutely.
Wow, fascinating. So the role of CHRO is about to transform, change for the good, for leading. Where does the CEO go in this whole space? Because we've talked about CIO, we've talked about CHRO, we've touched upon the CMO. Where does CEO go, and what happens with CFOs? Until a couple of years back, I was hearing rise of the CFO because cost was a very important aspect for running businesses. This is giving a different edge altogether. So how does that come into equation?
Look, the CEO's job is the safest, if you were to think about it that way. Okay, and so when you draw a list of which jobs nothing is going to happen to them because of AI, people keep on drawing this list. The CEO is always there because it's an extremely complex job. Okay, and it gets more complex every year. Okay, or every month almost, and not just because of technology. That's one part of it, but the whole geopolitical stuff, cultural, massive cultural shifts are happening in this world. Massive geopolitical shifts are happening, and therefore risks, supply chain risks, etc. And so I think a CEO's job is today, whether it's the CEO of a corporation or a country or an NGO, is increasingly complex. And I don't think we are anywhere near any kind of intelligence which can replicate, that complexity. And so until, this fabled AGI or, super intelligence comes in, and then, anyway, everything changes. CEO is the last thing we'll be thinking of. And so the responsibility of the CEO today, and I'm seeing that happen. Actually, CEOs I'm seeing far more curious and interested and proactive to learn and adopt technologies like AI because they know it's going to change everything, and they are under pressure from the boards and analysts and the everyone else, and they're frustrated because I think the urgency is not shared many times across the rest of the organization and even their direct reports. On the flip side, many of these technologies, so many times when technology used to come in, say SAP came in, ERP came in, at that time it was okay for the CEO to say, I don't need to know anything about ERP, not even its full form. Generative AI has so many amazing ways and tools and technologies which can help a CEO do her or his job far better. And that's again why when we do these AI literacy thing, it's huge. The CEO is always in the room, always, because they know that they can save so much time and do so many more things. The CFO, haven't thought much about it, frankly. But I think vis-a-vis technology, most CFOs are, I've seen this happen before. Okay, one more thing has come in. People are going to come and ask me for more money. It's a very complex function, and generative AI can simplify a lot of stuff which is there, whether it's regulation-oriented or legal-oriented or, just reading million by million row and column worksheets and, spreadsheets and simplifying them. So very frankly, I think I don't see too much of a change in either CEO or CFO's function, except if they look at this positively, it can help them perform much better.
Do you think at the top, the CEO is expected to know a lot of these things?
Increasingly
so. Are they okay to be vulnerable? Saying that, I don't know, I might not know.
Very, very, very good question. Just before I come to the vulnerability part, for a public company today, their valuation depends on whether they're doing AI or not, or they're saying doing. It's very interesting. If you go and analyze the annual reports of, say, Fortune 500 companies, the number of times the word AI appears is usually more than 100.
Wow.
Okay, in those annual reports. Because it's not just about doing it. Unfortunately, it's also about showing that to you. Any company which says, okay, I'm using AI and cutting my workforce, or I'm using AI to increase this innovation, the stock market immediately reacts.
Yeah.
And companies which don't talk about it, nothing happens. I can give you many, many examples of that. And so for a CEO to know about it and use it, adopt it, and have initiatives running in the company has become compulsory. Compulsory. The boards are not going to tolerate. In my view, many CEOs I have met, and I can only say from personal experience, I
Yeah.
don't have a study or a audit or some kind of a survey which I can refer to which shows, but most CEOs, if not all, have been very transparent and vulnerable about it. That look, this is something which I know I need to know. I don't know enough. My team doesn't know enough, and therefore, help me.
Yeah.
And this is across the board of different kinds of companies, whether it's promoter run or whether it's professionally done. I think that the boards are not that receptive yet. Okay? And many times I've seen that the frustration of CEOs is not only with the employees, but also with the boards. Okay, because the boards are still, I'm used to saying provocative things, are still run by, the same old directors are in every board.
Yeah.
And, they are worried about compliance and regulation and audits. I personally believe that the way we had regulation which said that the board should be diverse, there should be women independent directors, we compulsorily need technologists to be independent directors on the board, on every single board, because otherwise, people, these companies would be left behind.
No, and that's so right. I was hearing Mark Zuckerberg talk about it on the Joe Rogan show just last week. That
Where he dissed Apple, that one?
yeah, it's like I think what he meant, what he also said was he gets to choose the composition of his board, and he's able to get some pretty intelligent folks on the board to advise, to challenge him. How many CEOs are taking that opportunity to do that?
It is, and even when they get people, so I've seen boards get senior, they'll say, okay, fine, we have X. That X is usually someone who was doing IT 25 years back, okay, and the person is now, in his 70s. No, you need someone who's much younger.
Yeah.
But we are not deviating. We still think of the board as a certain kind of set of individuals, and we stick to that. And I think, to me, that is a bigger issue than CEOs.
Maybe have two boards. Have a compliance-led board and
An
have
innovation-led
advisory. Innovation-led boards.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
because your entire business could get wiped out.
Absolutely.
If you don't address this, it's not something that is good to have discussions that we are doing anymore.
No, absolutely. I mean, think of a poor CEO who's kind of wants to spend, I'm just taking a number, $10 million, okay, on AI, okay, let's say. And 10 million is a very small sum in the context of very large companies that are there.
Yeah.
And has to go to a board, and half the people haven't even opened ChatGPT, okay. The challenge is immense. And so I think your idea of a two boards is a very good idea.
Yeah. I've fundamentally always questioned some of the ways in which norms have been put on running organizations.
Yes.
Like one of my biggest discomfort, Jaspreet, is that half of CEOs and businesses challenge is talent and people. The amount of time that boards and CEOs spend on analyzing and looking at talent, like you can make or break your business through talent. Unfortunately, many of the organizations don't even spend 20% of their time on doing that. Yet at night, you are most awake with market share and talent.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And if those are the two things that is keeping you awake, then why not spend more time, effort, energy to understand that better? Why just leave it to the CHRO has always been my curiosity.
You should think of creating a talent balance sheet. The moment you say the words balance sheet, boards will stand up. Okay. So create a talent balance sheet.
Yeah.
And every board will be very happy to look at it.
I'm sure, and we have the AI agents to be added to that list as well
Absolutely.
of getting that into play.
Absolutely.
Wow, wow, wow. So where do we go from here? I'm just trying to take two steps ahead. 2025, you talked about the year of AI agents.
Yes.
Putting your hat as someone who's seen a lot in this space, what happens after this? What's 2030?
2030 is forever. Okay, is equal to forever for for this technology. I talk about the concept of GPT time, okay, which runs much faster than normal time.
Okay.
And so, the things which we thought, even when ChatGPT came out on November 30th, 2022, the things which I wrote about, similar answering similar questions. I have these couple of columns in different newspapers, and they always ask me to write about what are going to happen. All of those things have happened much faster than I believed.
Yeah.
And so, frankly, 2030 is very far away. The only thing I can say about 2030,
Yeah.
a lot of the new stuff about AI, agentic AI, about software as a service is going to move to something called service as a software. About AI will become the new UI of computers.
Yeah.
The fact that many things will happen, but I think by 2030 we'll do three things I can think of. One is, I think all our gadgets, our phones,
Yeah.
etc., will not look like this.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll be very different.
Would they even exist? Is my question.
They will exist.
They'll
Definitely, they
exist.
will exist. Except that they'll be the physical embodiment of AI. It'll be what is called embodied AI in that sense. Okay, and so I think the app stores will die. Okay, because you don't need apps anymore. There'll be millions of AI agents doing what apps do, and
Yeah.
you'll be interacting with them over voice. Okay?
Yeah.
Those kind of new devices have started coming in. They've all failed. They've all bombed, but that's how it is. There's something called the R3 Rabbit, which acts as a nice paperweight at my house right now. Okay, and a couple others, AI Pin, this, that.
Yeah.
But those are all devices which, think of a phone. A phone is a screen and a OS,
Yeah.
and apps, really. The OS, which is Android, Apple right now, will be large language models.
Yeah.
The screen will be replaced by a speaker, frankly. Okay, there will be a screen just to show stuff, and the apps will be really agents, multiple agents. So I think that the whole way we work with, definitely we will be very, very comfortable with working with AIs as co-workers by then. Okay, and so that's going to be the other big change in a sense. If many of these tech savants are to be believed, by that time we will have some version of artificial general intelligence, okay, which means that there'll be AIs which will have the capacity to be more intelligent and faster than many human beings. Not all, but many human beings. What we will not have, in my opinion, though I might be wrong, is AI with consciousness, okay, or even AI with real emotions. So some of those things will still remain human in a sense. We will also see AI. AI is the new oil, and I mean it in a geopolitical context. So oil, or use decided geopolitics for the last 30, 40 years, the Middle East and America, and shale oil and everything. And so data and AI is going to build new powers and make some of the old powers go away by 2030. So I think these are the 3 or 4 things which would happen.
Which would happen.
Yeah.
Wow. It's an interesting time that we are heading
The
into.
big tech will get reconfigured.
Okay.
I think Google is vulnerable. It might still, it's a very powerful, very great company, and they actually have the best set of AI talent as well as the best set of AI assets, at least 10 times better than the next company. But their business models are vulnerable. Search is vulnerable, apps are vulnerable, and so video is vulnerable. And so, we'll see It's already started. I said realignment of big tech will happen in 5 years. In like 3 months after that, NVIDIA became a big tech. Okay, and so we don't know. There'll probably be a new big search player, Perplexity. It could be Perplexity. It could be someone else.
Yeah, you touched upon talent, AI talent. In
Yeah,
fact, I was
yeah,
speaking to someone just last week that, especially in the search space,
yeah.
rather than some of the top search firms looking at across, they should just look at AI talent and
Which they are.
specializing only in AI talent, because that's going to be one of the biggest differentiators.
And which they are.
Yeah.
Frankly, today, I mean, Google recently went and bought a company for, I think it was 2 point something billion dollars, was it? 1.2 for one person who heads that
Wow.
company. He was an ex-Googler.
Wow.
He he was one of the, what is called the Transformer 8. He was one of the 8 people who wrote this seminal paper called Attention is All You Need, which made generative AI happen. The main guy there. They went and bought the company because they wanted him back. So I think all of these large, rich, powerful companies are primarily looking at it. And today, OpenAI, the base salary of a researcher there is $900,000.
Wow.
That's beyond. That's before the stock and everything else. So, and they say that there are just about 100 odd people in this planet who can actually understand and build a large language model.
Wow.
And so each of those 100 is commanding
They should
amazing
get
numbers
Z plus
today.
security.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, I think AI talent, and I think it both sides. I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of new AI talent being produced, and all companies, not only tech companies. My old company Mahindra has recently hired 150 data scientists, and so a bunch of companies which are not conventionally tech companies are also looking at AI talent.
Wow, wow! It's the era of AI agents and AI talent.
Absolutely.
That we are getting
Absolutely.
into.
Absolutely.
What excites me, Jaspreet, is this whole aspect of an opportunity for the human scope to evolve, the humanness to evolve, our ability to not get trapped in transactions, but moving beyond that. Far too much time, and I think the industrial era had still got us into thinking like that, where we were always thinking about mass, we were always thinking about engineered, we were always thinking about how we may sort of approach a particular problem through an industrial solution. We were wired like that. I think that those wires are going to break, and people are going to look at new possibilities, which could be through the roots of creativity and innovation. I seriously hope that we get into that era. And I'm sure people like you have a lot of work to do, talking about some of this stuff, teaching. You do a lot of teaching. So the next layer, the next crop that's going to get into our workforce, they need. I have huge hope on how they're going to really look at this and try and change that. So hoping for a very brighter 2030 and the road ahead towards that.
Sure. Look, like every fundamental technology, nuclear was one. Every technology has a bright side and a dark side.
Yeah.
And there are many dark sides to AI. We haven't really talked about those today.
Yeah.
But so far we have managed to, as human beings, even with nuclear,
Yeah.
after Hiroshima, fortunately, we've been only talking about the good parts of it. And so with AI. And I'm encouraged, my optimism frankly comes from, you mentioned the teaching part. When I teach, and I usually teach students in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't think about the things you and I think about. Okay. What will happen to human, and will jobs get lost? And no, they don't. They are like, they have already embraced, absorbed these technologies into their work and their life, and they are like just naturally working with them, as we as we go forward, and they are super thrilled, excited. They are not thinking of these as job destroyers, but actually like that if they know better than others, then how they could actually become, much sought after going forward. So that's what gives me the hope and optimism.
Yeah, I think organizations should just get more and more Gen Z as part of their
Absolutely.
workforce
Absolutely.
and get that new momentum in.
Difficult to manage, but good to have. But maybe it'll help them manage AI agents better.
I think time will say.
Yeah, yeah.
Super. Lovely, lovely to have you as part of the season 1 of Humanscope, a new podcast series. I think I couldn't have asked for a better guest to kick off the conversations we wanted to have as People Matters. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me here. It was lovely to have this conversation.
Superb.